As I see it, there are 3 ways to bring in new clients to your practice. One of the most important things I find to look for in a therapist for ourselves, 3 things I learned the hard way. If you're a therapist and you've thought about seeing clients from home, wondering what the expectations versus the reality of private practice is, and wondering how to attract more clients, then this video is for you. Today, I'll be answering these questions and a few others in a segment I'm going to call Questions from the Internet. If this is your first time on the channel, I'm Ashley Phillips and I'm a certified EMDR therapist. If you have questions about therapy or about EMDR specifically, or questions around running your own private practice, put it in the comments and I might include it in our next segment. Okay, so first question up is, what are the lessons you've learned the hard way? First up, I believe there's 2 types of individuals who are counselors. They're the types of individuals who are really interested in business. They want to learn about how to operate a business and understanding finance, marketing, and all the administrative details. And they're also counselors. Then you have the second group of individuals where they are counselors first, it's where they want to spend their time, and then they're forced to become business owners because they want to go into private practice. Personally, I was definitely in the second half. I want to be the counselor first and be the business owner second. 3 things I learned the hard way. Number 1, this was my biggest lesson, is really understanding my strengths and my weaknesses. Like I said, the business stuff does not come naturally to me, nor is it really where I want to spend my time. I want to spend my time seeing clients, studying and researching. That is what I want to do, not all the marketing stuff and the admin stuff and tracking everything. It's not my jam. I learned the best thing I could do is to delegate and hire out those tasks that I do not enjoy. And let's be honest, of the things that I'm outsourcing, it doesn't come close to what my billable rate is. I can pay someone less than what I earn per hour, and they understand that thing very quickly. They can have it done very quickly, whereas I spend so much of my time trying to figure out something that I really don't understand. Number 2, this is a lesson that I've learned from others, and this is to put money aside for tax season. I am amazed every single year when I talk to counselors who are shocked that they now owe the government $15,000, $20,000, even $30,000 in taxes, and they didn't save a penny. That just feels vomit-inducing for me to think about owing that much money, and they have to spend the next several months working, quote, for free. So I highly recommend that every single week you automatically set aside a chunk of change into a forced savings account that you never touch, that is ready for you to pay your tax bill. Number 3, this is also a lesson that I've learned from others, and this is get life, health, and disability insurance. When you're in private practice, you are the sole income earner. This means if you're not working, you do not get paid. If something happens to you, if you get sick, if you're in an accident, and you have no insurance to cover you, you are effectively out a job with no money coming in. I hope I never get into an accident. I hope I never get sick. I hope I never have to call in that insurance policy. And I am so grateful that every single month I pay for that insurance so that should something happen, I know that I will not have to stress around my livelihood. Once I had all of this figured out, I realized how many therapists are like me, where we're counselors first and we're not really good at the business side of things. And that's why I started the Kelowna EMDR clinic. We have people here that do the marketing, that do the administration, the billing, the finances, and then we support them in their business and help them figure out all those tough things so they don't have to learn any of it the hard way. If you want me to do a whole video about starting a private practice, let me know in the comments below. And next up is a question about how do you find a therapist for yourself? One of the most important things I find to look for in a therapist for ourselves, especially if we're counselors, is to find a therapist who is an expert in the area that you're wanting to work on. Throughout my life, I've had a variety of different counselors who all came into my life at different points because I had different needs. I'm also looking for someone who is comfortable working with other therapists. It's not uncommon that a therapist will be a bit nervous working with another therapist. So I've been really point blank direct with the therapist to let them know I am also a counselor and are they comfortable working with me? Finally, if you're uncomfortable with your therapist, and this is after seeing several therapists in a row, what I might suggest is to explore what's going on inside of you because it actually might be about you. I remember when I first came out of my university program, and I was actually pretty hesitant to see a therapist, mainly because I was really uncomfortable about what they would think about me. Because, of course, as a therapist, I should have my life all put together and I shouldn't have any problems. Now we have a question about how to attract more clients. As I see it, there are 3 ways to bring in new clients to your practice. First, specialize and create an area of expertise. This is going to help you to become a better therapist. And when we're a better therapist, then word of mouth gets around and that will bring in new clients. Secondly, you need to build your professional network throughout your community. This means connecting with GPs, but also all the various allied health professions. Physiotherapists, massage therapists, chiropractors, you name it. For example, I love working with recent traumatic events. This means that there could have been an injury for this individual, a car accident, or they've witnessed a traumatic event. Because I work with a number of allied health professionals, they know this is the area that I work in. So when a client comes in, particularly if there's been an injury due to a traumatic event, then they refer clients over to see me and I try to get them in as soon as possible. Finally, I believe having an online presence is still important. Here I'm talking about having a website, a Google business profile, and social media if that's your thing. Through the data that we've gathered at our clinic over the past 5 years, we see that most people will find us through traditional search methods such as Google. Individuals often may not ask family or friends. They want to maintain some privacy, so they'll just go online and search for clinics or counselors that specialize in the area that they're looking for. Next up, we have a question about seeing clients from your home. There are 4 things you need to consider. So first off is, what is the confidentiality and privacy situation? What is the sound transfer like? Like, will they hear noises and movements if other people are in the house? Are there going to be family members also in the house when you're working? Personally, that would be a big uncomfortable zone for me. A second point to consider is, do you want your clients to know where you live? When clients know where you live, you don't have any control when they could pop by to visit you, for example. I've heard of stories where clients have come to visit their counselor late at night, especially if they were having an emergency. A third point to consider is, can you separate work and home? For some individuals like myself, I much prefer working at an office space so that I have my home life as its own sacred space. Finally, I would look at professionalism. For a lot of individuals, they may see that going into a clinic space or an office space will give you more street cred than if we see someone from our home. I also recognize that every single community is different, so you have to look at all of these things to understand what's going to be the best thing for you and your clients. Finally, we have a great question about expectations versus reality. The person asking the question has 3 main points: lofty earning expectations, ability to be picky with their clients, and finally, lack of accountability to take criticism. As the founder of the Kelowna EMDR clinic, I've definitely run into some of these issues, and I'm going to share with you what my experience has been. New therapists tend to have very lofty income expectations. I wouldn't put it solely on the new therapist, though. There's a couple institutions that I'm aware of that they actively promote to their graduates that they will be making $90,000 to $100,000 within the first 6 months of opening up a private practice after graduation. So these institutions are definitely setting up their students for disappointment when they learn that what they've been told doesn't match up with the reality of the situation. I've done a whole video talking about earning potential as a therapist and all the things that you need to consider when you're going into private practice. I'll leave a link in the description below for you. Not being comfortable with our clients is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, if you feel like you don't have the skills and it's outside your scope of practice, it is within your ethical duty to refer those clients out to someone that has the experience in the area that that client needs. On the other hand, if we're so selective on who we work with, we're actually not going to grow as a therapist and we're not going to get to be better at our job. The key here is being aware of your circle of competency. When you take on cases that are within your circle of competency or just at the edges of it, you're giving yourself a beautiful experience to learn and grow as a therapist. But clients who are way outside your scope of practice really need to be referred out. Finally, the lack of ability to take criticism and saying they're being attacked. What I've done is I talk to my team and I ask them, what is the best way for me to give you feedback? What is the best way for you to take information so that you can become the best therapist that you can be? If I continue to notice the pattern of the same thing happening over and over again, I may gently and kindly encourage them to speak to a therapist about this because I know that it can be really activating to get feedback about our work. And so I would encourage them to see a therapist who specializes in this area to help them out. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up so that other people can find this information. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe to this channel to learn more about trauma treatment, EMDR, and private practice. If you have a question of your own that you'd like answered, put it in the comments below and it might come up on our next Q&A. Bye for now.